Welcome to Beautiful Thrift Homemaking. My name is Linda, and I'm reading through a vintage cookbook from 1917 that also has a storyline in it. So we read the stories and talk about the recipes. We like to see how life is different now than it was in 1917 and see what else is the same. So in this section, we are going to be reading 4 chapters that are in the take place during the Christmas season. Chapter 96, Some of Bettina's Christmas Plans. Tonight, said Bettina at the dinner table, I expect to finish 3 Christmas gifts, one for Alice, one for Mary, and one for Eleanor. Now, aren't you curious to know what I've been making? Curiosity is no name for it, said Bob, but I'm even more curious to know what particular thing it is that makes this ham so tender. Is it baked? Anyhow, it's the best I have ever eaten. Thank you, said Bettina, but you always say that about sliced ham, no matter how it is cooked. But this is a little different. It is baked in milk. Great anyhow, said Bob. Now, tell me about your conspiracy with Santa Claus. Well, I am making for Alice an indexed set of recipes, a card index. All the recipes are just for 2, and they are all tried and true. Just for 2, tried and true, sent with Betty's love to you, echoed Bob. You can write that on the card that goes with it. I shall have you think what to say on all the gifts, Bob. I must show you the box of cards. It is only a correspondence card box with the white cards to fit, but I'm sure that Alice will like her new cookbook. Then, for Mary and Eleanor, I have made card table covers. Mary's is of white Indian head, just a square of it, bound with white tap and with white tape at the corners for tying it to the table. It is to have a white monogram. Eleanor's is linen colored and is bound in green with a green monogram. Hers is finished, and I shall finish Mary's this evening. That is, if you will read to me while I work. Hooray, said Bob. What shall I read, Mark Twain? For dinner that night they had baked ham, baked potatoes, cornbread, butter, and cranberry sauce. And we have the recipes for her baked ham, which Bob loved, and her cornbread and cranberry sauce. Chapter 97, More of Bettina's Christmas Shopping. Bob, said Bettina as she served the plum pudding, Christmas is in the very air these days. Did the Christmas spirit inspire this plum pudding? said he. Blessings on the head of Santa Claus. But why your outburst? Because today I went shopping in earnest. I bought the very things that seem most Christmassy. Tissue paper, white and green, gold cord, a ball of red twine, Santa Claus and holly stickers, and the cards to tie to the packages. I love to wrap up Christmas things. And are most of your gifts ready to be wrapped? No, not all, for some of them can't be made till the last minute. For instance, I thought about Uncle Eric's gift. I want so much to please him, but he has everything that money can buy except perhaps a cook that suits him. Finally, I decided to send him a box containing a jar of sliced peaches, a jar of Russian dressing, a little round fruit cake, and a box of fudge. The things will all be wrapped with tissue paper and gold cord and holly. Lucky Uncle Eric, sighed Bob. I wish Santa Claus would bring me a Christmas box like that. Fruit cake and sliced peaches and Russian dressing. Maybe he will if you're very good, laughed Bettina, if you eat everything your cook sets before you. Tell me something hard to do, said Bob with enthusiasm. For dinner that night they had scalloped eggs and cheese, baked potatoes, currant jelly, rolls, plum pudding with yellow sauce, and coffee. And now we'll talk about these. Well, I like the fact that there's handmade gifts involved in these 2 chapters. So let's talk about those rather than talking about Santa Claus, who apparently was also around in 1917. So Bettina is making gifts for friends of hers. She has a box that she's putting together with recipes, and she'll have little index card recipes organized in the box for her friend who's a newlywed. That one is going to Alice, and we know that she just returned from her honeymoon about 6 weeks ago, so she can use those recipes as she cooks for her new husband Harry. And then we have these card table covers that are made. So people used to sit around a square table that was collapsible, so the legs folded in so that it could be stored in a closet or under a bed, and that was called a card table. And they're still around. You may be familiar with them already. So people would sit, because it's a square table and not too big, people could easily play cards with 4 people sitting at the table. And people could be partners sitting across from one another, for example, in certain card games. So that was really convenient for people to use a card table for those games. Which, before we had the online entertainments, getting together with friends and playing card games was one really fun pastime for people. So what she's doing is making, for 2 of her friends, she's making card table covers. I don't quite understand that, because I think that to pick up cards from a table, it's the more slick the table, the better. But I just probably don't understand what they're made out of, because she says something about Indian head, and I don't know if that's a type of fabric, or maybe she's making these with oilcloth, something like that, that's more plasticky. But she is putting monograms. They sound beautiful and very simple and elegant also at the same time, because one's white with a white monogram, and then the other one is green with a green monogram as far as the trim goes around it. So that was nice. And then she's talking about the ham. Bob enjoys the ham no matter how she makes it, but in this case the baked ham is made with milk, and milk acts as a tenderizer. I've actually tenderized chicken pieces in milk before, and in buttermilk, before putting them in to cook. So let's look at the baked ham. 3 portions is 2/3 a pound of sliced ham, 1 inch thick, 1 cup milk, 1 tablespoon flour, and 1 tablespoon water. Cover the ham with boiling water and let it stand 10 minutes. Remove from the pan and place the ham in a pan just large enough to hold it. Cover with the milk. Place in a moderate oven and bake 30 minutes. More milk may be added if necessary. When the ham is done, add more liquid, enough to make 1/2 a cup. Mix flour with water. Add the hot milk to this slowly. Heat and cook 1 minute and serve with the ham. Okay, she's just made a kind of a gravy with the juices from the ham. So she's not making, she's not wasting that flavored cooking liquid that's formed around the ham as it baked. Now that she's serving cornbread with this, and this is for 3 portions, a very small dish of cornbread. To make it, she takes 1/2 cup of cornmeal, and it's a little dim in here because we're overcast, very windy and rainy today, and I did not turn the light on so as not to get too much reflection on my glasses, so I am hoping that I see this correctly. I believe I do. It says 1/2 cup of cornmeal, 2/3 cup flour, 3 tablespoons sugar, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1 egg yolk, 2/3 cup milk, and 1 tablespoon melted butter. Mix the cornmeal, flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt thoroughly. So she's putting the dry ingredients together and mixing them up. That's a typical start for any baked goods, isn't it? Then she's going to add the egg yolk and milk and beat 2 minutes. Then add the melted butter and then mix well. Pour into a well-buttered square cake pan. Bake in a moderate oven 20 minutes. A moderate oven being 350 degrees, most likely, possibly 325. Now, I'd like to just point out that whenever you add melted butter to something that has egg in it, raw egg, you're going to want to be careful that the butter's not too hot, that it doesn't cook the eggs, like make them into kind of scrambled eggs. Then there's cranberry sauce, which I don't know. I think that many of us had cranberry sauce at Thanksgiving in November or at our Christmas dinner, which for me was just yesterday. Cranberry sauce, 4 portions, 1 quart of cranberries, 2 cups of sugar, and 2 cups of water. Look over and wash the cranberries. Cook them in the water until they are soft and skins are broken. Remove from the fire, add the sugar, and stir well. Cook 3 minutes. Pour into a mold which has been dipped in cold water. All right, so this recipe calls for an awful lot of sugar, doesn't it? A little bit more than the modern recipes do, that is for sure. You know, this one might come out much more like the canned cranberry sauce because then it is molded. And I would also like to say, when she says remove from the fire, remember she's using a gas stove, so the burner is a flame. All right, so the recipes for chapter 97 are for the scalloped eggs with cheese, 3 portions, 3 hard-cooked eggs, 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons flour, 1 cup milk, 1 cup soft breadcrumbs, 1/2 a cup of cheese cut fine, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of parsley. Melt the butter, add the flour, and mix well. Gradually add the milk. Cook 1 minute. Add the cheese and the eggs cut in slices. Add the parsley and the salt. Place 1/2 the crumbs in the bottom of a well-buttered baking dish. Add the egg mixture and cover with the remaining crumbs. Dot with butter and brown in a moderate oven. All right, so she's going to serve that next to the ham. It's kind of like a dressing type of thing. And I think it's very peculiar that it's made with hard-cooked eggs. And that seems to be the substance of it. So that'll be an interesting one to give a try too. Bettina's plum pudding for 4 portions is made with 1 cup of fresh breadcrumbs, 1/4 cup of suet chopped fine, and that's a form of fat, 1/2 teaspoon of soda. Now here I'm having trouble seeing this. 1/8 a teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/2 a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/8 a teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 1/4 cup of molasses, 1 egg, 1/3 cup of milk, 4 tablespoons of raisins, and 4 tablespoons of nuts. And again, this is for plum pudding. I've often wondered what plum pudding is like. It seems like it shows up a lot in British literature when they're covering the Christmas season. So if you've ever wanted to try it, this is nice because it's only for 4 portions, so it wouldn't be too wasteful to give it a try. If you don't like it, I mean. Mix the breadcrumbs, the suet, soda, cloves, cinnamon, and salt, and baking powder. Add the raisins cut fine and the nuts. So she's going to cut the raisins up. Break the egg into the molasses and beat well. And then add the milk. Mix with the first ingredients. Stir and mix thoroughly. Fill a well-buttered pudding mold 1/2 full. Steam 1.5 hours and serve with yellow sauce. And she's going to give us, thankfully, the recipe for the yellow sauce. For 4 portions is 1 egg, 1/4 a cup of powdered sugar, 1 tablespoon of milk, and 1/2 a teaspoon of vanilla. Beat the egg white until stiff and dry. Okay, so she's going to separate that 1 egg. She separated the eggs, so she's going to beat the egg white until stiff and dry. Remember that if there's any touch of egg yolk in that egg white, it's not going to beat up stiff and dry. So you need to make sure that you separate the eggs very carefully. Add the yolk and beat 1 minute. And yes, even though you're going to add the yolk back in, you can't have any yolk in it when you're going to whip up those egg whites. So now you're adding the yolk and beating 1 minute. Then you're adding in the powdered sugar and you're going to continue beating. Then you're going to add the milk and the vanilla gradually. Gradually add the milk and the vanilla. Continue beating for 1 minute. Serve at once over a hot pudding. And I think that the reason it's called yellow sauce is the yellow of the yolk of the egg must give it its color. Right. So that's the discussion and the recipes for chapters 96 and 97. And because this is my Christmas season episode, I'm going to go ahead and continue on and read chapters 98 and I believe 99 also. So we'll get into that right now. Chapter 98, Christmas Gifts. Speaking of Christmas gifts, said Charlotte, wouldn't anyone be delighted to receive a little jar of your Russian dressing, Bettina? I'm sure I'd like it, said Frank Dixon. Much better than a pink necktie or a white gift book called Thoughts at Christmastide. Mary Owen makes a candied orange peel for all of her friends, said Bettina, and I think that isn't so nice, for hers is delicious. She saves candy boxes through the year, and all of her close friends receive the same gift with Mary's card. We all know what to expect from her, and we are all delighted too. And you see she doesn't have to worry over different gifts for each one. I do think Christmas is growing more sensible, don't you? My sister in South Carolina sends out her Christmas gifts a few weeks early, said Frank. She sends boxes of mistletoe to everyone. They seem to be welcome too. By the way, Bob, did you and Bettina decide on your Christmas cards? Yes, said Bob, and they are partly ready, but we are waiting to get a little picture of the bungalow with snow on the roof. A winter picture seems most appropriate, and the snow isn't forthcoming. The weatherman seems to be all upset this year. Charlotte has been making some small calendars to send out, said Frank. She has used her Kodak pictures, and I'm afraid they're mostly of me. I don't know what some of my friends will say when they see me with an apron around my neck, seeding cherries. They'll be surprised anyhow, said Charlotte. I rather like that picture myself. For dinner that night, Bettina served scalloped oysters, baked potatoes, head lettuce, Russian dressing, baking powder biscuits, apple jelly, prune whip, cream, and coffee. And we have the recipes for the scalloped oysters, the Russian dressing, the prune whip, and that is it. And then in chapter 99, another Christmas chapter, a Christmas shower. Dear Bettina, wrote Polly, somehow I never do like to write letters, certainly not at this busiest time of the year, but I simply must tell you about a luncheon that Elizabeth Carter and I gave the other day to one of our holiday brides. Angela Carey, do you remember her? A dear girl, rather quiet, but with plenty of good common sense. We had a large Christmas table, aren't they simple and effective, with a Christmas tree in the center, strung with tiny electric lights, and hung with tinsel and ornaments. Strings of red Christmas bells stretched from the chandelier above the table to the four corners. The favors at each place were several kinds: Santas, little Christmas trees, snowmen, and sleds, all of them concealing at their bases the boxes holding the salted nuts. The place cards were simply Christmas cards. Before the guest of honor stood a small Santa, larger, however, than any of the other Santas, and in his hands were the ends of 20 or more narrow green ribbons, each leading to a separate shower package at the base of the tree. These packages, it was a miscellaneous shower, made an interesting-looking heap, but we didn't ask Angeline to open them until we had reached the salad course. Then she drew each one toward her by the end of a ribbon, opened it, and read the verse on the gift. You have no idea how clever some of the gifts and verses were. Margaret McLaughlin, do you remember her? Had dressed a dish mop in 2 tea towels, making the funniest old woman. This she introduced as Bridget, Angeline's cook-to-be. One of the girls who sketches cleverly had illustrated her card with pictures of Angeline in her kitchen. But I am forgetting our table decorations. We had furnished 4 rooms for Angeline, doll size, and the furniture of each was grouped along the table. Besides the living room, bedroom, dining room, and kitchen, we presented Angeline and Dean with an auto, in miniature of course, a cow, a horse, several ducks and chickens, a ferocious dog, and a sleepy cat. Weren't we good to them? And lo and behold, beside the auto stood Dean himself, disguised as a little china Cupid man, while Angeline, always a always a lady, stood gracefully in the living room and refused to help him with his menial tasks or to assist Nora, who was hanging out the clothes in the backyard. Angeline was a Cupid, dressed in style. We had the greatest fun finding and arranging these decorations, and now I must tell you about the luncheon itself. I'm even enclosing our recipes, for I know you will be interested. "Hello there, Bettina," called Bob at this moment, coming in with a rush. "Is dinner ready? What do you suppose I've done? I've absolutely forgotten to send a Christmas gift to Aunt Elizabeth, and I know she'll feel hurt. Will you go with me after dinner to get it?" Polly's luncheon menu was as follows: a Christmas shower, grapefruit with marshmallow cherries. I'm sorry, as I said, I can't see very well in the light that I'm using, and my eyes are just not very clear today. Grapefruit with maraschino cherries, that makes more sense. Chicken croquettes, candied sweet potatoes, creamed peas, light rolls, butter, cranberry jelly, vegetable salad and salad dressing, Santa Claus sandwiches, chocolate ice cream a la Tannenbaum, Christmas white cake, salted nuts, coffee, and candy canes. And let's see which recipes they include. Well, we're going to have the chicken croquettes, the vegetable salad, and those are going to be the 2 recipes there. But the story actually continues as Bettina continues reading the letter that Polly had sent. "I wish, Bettina," Polly's letter continued, "that you might have seen the cunning sandwiches that we served with the salad. They were cut with a star-shaped cookie cutter, and on each one was perched a tiny Santa Claus. The sandwiches were arranged on a tray decorated with Christmas tree branches. And now comes the dessert. The chocolate ice cream was served in small flower pots lined with waxed paper, and in each flower pot grew a miniature Christmas tree. Around the base of the tree, whipped cream was heaped to represent snow. They were really very, very cunning." I added an extra very to that, by the way. They were really very cunning. Served with the ice cream was a large round white cake decorated very elaborately with icing bells and holly. On the top was placed a real candy bell, large and red. This cake was carried in to Angeline to cut. Around the base, inside the cake, were 20 tiny favors wrapped in waxed paper. They were of all sorts: pipes, canoes, flat irons, animals, birds, many things, but all very tiny. Narrow white bows tied on each favor indicated its position in the cake so that the pieces could be cut to give each guest a favor. Angeline cut her piece first and drew her favor by pulling the little white ribbon. It was really great fun drawing and unwrapping the favors, and the girls tried to interpret the meaning of each. Mary Catherine, Angeline's younger sister, drew the ring and delightedly proclaimed that she would be the next bride. At this, the girls looked a little doubtful, for at the table were no less than 6 engaged girls, besides Angeline. Mary Catherine may fool them, who knows, but I hope not, for she is far too young and silly to settle down for many years. With the coffee, we served striped candy canes. Well, Betty, I believe I've told you everything about our Christmas luncheon. Do write me soon again, for I love to get your letters. Stir Bob up some stir Bob up to write sometime. Stir Bob up to write occasionally. He has forgotten his sister now that he has a wife. Yours always, Polly. All right, and then we have those two recipes. So let's go back to chapter 93 and 98, and we'll look at the recipes for the Christmas gifts chapter. And you know, I am sorry that Santa Claus has usurped Jesus as the center of people's Christmas celebrations and decorations. However, I realize that Christmas is really not accurately the time of Christ's birth. So it is rather a secular holiday anyway, very often for many. All right, so Christmas gifts. That was more about the handmade gifts, talking about what other people do. I love this idea of just doing the same thing for all your friends. I know some people who make fudge every year, even some men who make fudge every year, and that's what the family gives to their family friends. So this one was the candied orange peel, which I've tried to make before, and my family will not eat it, but I have made it, and I think it's kind of fun dipped in chocolate. And then there's the mistletoe that was sent by the other relative. It looks like Bob and Bettina are still waiting for snow so that they can get a photo of their little bungalow home covered in snow to add to their Christmas cards. And we hear the word Kodak Pictures, so that's a brand that's been around a long time. All right. Now the scalloped oysters are 2 cups of oysters, 2 cups of cracker crumbs, 3 tablespoons of melted butter, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1½ cups milk. Look over the oysters carefully and remove any particles of shells. To the melted butter, add salt, pepper, and cracker crumbs. Place a layer of crumbs in the bottom of a well-buttered baking dish and add the oysters and more crumbs until the dish is filled. Pour the milk over the oysters and crackers. Bake 20 minutes in a moderate oven. The Russian dressing, which was complimented and was given as a gift, also is for 4 portions. It's 1 cup of salad dressing, 1 teaspoon of chopped pimento, 1 teaspoon of chopped green pepper, 1 teaspoon of vinegar, 1/2 teaspoon paprika, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/2 cup of olive oil, 1/2 cup of chili sauce. Now, I have a note here to compare this recipe to one on page 246, in which she gives a Russian dressing recipe that is different than this one. To the cup of salad dressing, add the oil, chili sauce, seasonings, vinegar, and finely chopped vegetables. Beat 2 minutes. Pour over head lettuce. Then for her prune whip, which we've had before, this one is for 4 portions. 1/3 a pound of prunes, 3 egg whites, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and 1/2 cup of sugar. Look over and wash the prunes. Cook for 3 hours in cold water. Wow. Cook until soft. Rub through a strainer and add the sugar and lemon juice. Cook this mixture for 5 minutes. Beat the egg whites until very stiff and add the prunes when cold. Pile lightly into a buttered baking dish and bake 20 minutes in a slow oven. Serve with cream. Sometimes I wonder if the reason these puddings that are steamed and these other things such as this that are cooked in multiple steps aren't so popular nowadays because of the extra time they take. Imagine cooking those, soaking, I mean soaking, soak for 3 hours in cold water and then cook until soft. I think I misspoke on that. Imagine having to plan ahead, like as you would with making yeast breads, for example. You have to plan ahead. So soak for 3 hours, and then you're going to cook them until soft, and then you're going to bake it at the end. So a lot of steps involved. We kind of go in for pre-made foods nowadays, don't we? And things that are prepared ahead. We only need to warm them up, drop them out, dump them out of a bag, and so forth. For example, the ham that I made at Christmas yesterday was pre-cooked, and I didn't have to then spend any time with it in the oven. I heated it up in a pan so that it would get a little browned because we like it that way, kind of pan fried. Okay, so then in the Christmas shower, chapter 99, we have that letter that comes from Bob's sister Polly, and she's just telling Bettina all the information about a bridal shower that they gave for a friend, and the foods that were served and the decorations. And again, because it was Christmas time, Santa was the theme, and she talked about how they served the cake with a party favor for each person. And the recipe here is for chicken croquettes. Now, we usually have recipes in this book for just 2 people or 4 people, most commonly 2 people. This one, because it was for a party with a lot of people, the chicken croquette recipe is for 25 croquettes. So to make that, you take a 3-pound chicken cooked and cut fine, 1 pound of lean veal cooked and cut fine, 4 tablespoons of chopped green pepper, 1/2 a teaspoon of paprika, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 cup of chicken fat, 1/2 a cup of flour, 1 tablespoon salt, 2 cups of milk, 2 eggs, 3 tablespoons water, and 3 cups of cracker crumbs. Melt the chicken fat. Add the flour and salt and mix well. Gradually add the milk, stirring constantly. When the mixture gets thick and creamy, allow it to cook with an asbestos mat under the pan for 5 minutes. This cooks the flour thoroughly. Beat 1 minute to make it creamy. Add the chicken, veal, green pepper, paprika, and salt. Allow the mixture to cool. Take 1 tablespoon of the cooled mixture and dip in the beaten egg to which the water has been added. Dip in the crumbs and shape any desired shape, preferably conical. Allow the croquettes to stand at least 1 hour before frying. Fry in deep fat and drain on brown paper. Keep hot in the oven until serving. I remember someone who took a nutrition class said that they would take the brown paper, such as a brown paper sack, that kind of brown paper, or brown wrapping paper, brown craft paper, and if you put a food item on that, you can see if it's got fat in it, because it will seep into the paper, make a grease spot. So they're using that to drain the fat off of these croquettes. And I don't know about this asbestos mat that she had under the pan. So I think that what she did was she took it off the heat and put it on this hot pad, so to speak, and was stirring it. So that would have kept at a low temperature, but it would still keep that heat, that pad would hold that heat in. That's my guess on that. If you know otherwise, please share with us. The vegetable salad for 20 portions was 10 tomatoes, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 cup of cottage cheese, 1 cup of pimentos cut in strips, 1/2 a cup of green pepper cut in strips, 20 pieces of lettuce, 2 cups of salad dressing, 1/2 a cup of salad dressing, separate, 1/2 a cup of oil from the canned pimento, and 1/2 a cup of whipped cream. Well, to assemble this salad, you arrange the lettuce leaves washed on salad plates. Place 1 slice of tomato, 2 slices of pimento, and 2 slices of green pepper on each. Sprinkle the vegetables with pepper and salt. Add 2 teaspoons of cottage cheese. Place 1 teaspoon of salad dressing on each portion. Now to prepare the salad dressing, you're going to mix boiled dressing and pimento oil together and then add the whipped cream. Mix well and pile attractively on the salad. So some of those ingredients then in that list were for that mixture. And it's a creamy dressing. Okay. So those are the recipes that we covered in these extra 2 chapters and the storylines. I will talk also about wrapping gifts. We had in this one that she got the gift wrapping materials together, and a few years back I sewed some Christmas gift bags that would be reusable, and so maybe at the end I'll show some pictures of that. Or maybe what I'll do, because I want to talk some more, is I'll pause the video and add a little bit where I can show those. But I think this one is getting rather long, so I'm a little concerned about that. Uncle Eric was given special thoughtful gifts because she's wondering what does he need and what does he really want. And he likes good foods and kind of lacks in that area, so she decided to send him an assortment of things that she had made. So she does some canning. She's able to add some things like that in, and some other foods that he would like. And so that was a really sweet gift for Uncle Eric. That was in chapter 97 going back. The Russian dressing was one of the things, and then a fruit cake and a box of fudge. Then she wrapped them with tissue paper and a gold cord and put a little holly in that. So that was nice. So Christmas wrapping it's a fun thing to wrap presents and make them attractive. And sometimes people say the presentation is half the gift. So I think it's important to present things to people in an attractive manner, but to show them that it's a special thought that went into the giving of the gift. And I would also like to comment on consumable gifts, since we were talking about Uncle Eric's gift, because that really goes in with the minimalist philosophy and keeping uncluttered and just kind of avoiding materialism. I think that's a great thing to do, is to give gifts that are consumable. And if I go back to our chart of the 6 R's right here, which I've shown in past episodes. The 6 R's are reduce, reuse, recycle, repurpose, refuse, and repair. So refuse goes with the gift bags, the cloth gift bags. So we refuse to use things that are just going to end up in the landfill immediately. And I think that's the popularity of gift bags that can be reused. I know I save gift bags when I get them if they haven't been written on, if they didn't get too mushed up, too wrinkled. So reducing, consume less and avoid excess, can be applied at Christmas time too. I so wish that I had gotten these made earlier in December so they could have been helpful to someone. But then again, YouTube, it goes around, and these are here for people at different times also. So reducing, consuming less, and avoiding excess. So sometimes thinking about giving less gifts. There's a cute little thing that goes around, a little rhyme that has to do with giving less that I'll share with you also. And giving things that are repurposed or recycled, like giving things that maybe are from a secondhand store, from an antique shop, are wonderful ideas too. So I'm going to gather a few things to share with you along those lines to end this video for the Christmas season. There is another chapter that deals with a Christmassy theme, but we'll catch that in the next episode. Okay, I'm back to just share a few things about making Christmas more simple and less about materialism. So there's a little rhyme that I've read before called something to wear, something you need, something you want, something to read. And this is the 4 gift plan that some people maybe follow. And you may have heard something like this before, but it's a way to focus in your gifts and not give too many things, and also to be practical, right? Something to wear. Everyone enjoys to get something new to wear, and those are very common gifts, aren't they? And then something you need is practical. Something you want is a special thing, and then something to read. Of course, many of us love to get books. So these are some of the reusable gift bags that I made years ago, drawstring bags that we can save the landfill. And so I used some Christmassy scraps of material for this one here. Well, for all of them. Here's another one. This one just has a green check there, and then little Christmas fabrics, and again it's got a drawstring, so it's a cute little gift bag, I think, anyway. This one is a little patchwork, and you can see the Merry Christmas pattern on that fabric there, and the back has a different Christmassy fabric. And again, this is a drawstring bag. And here's just another one. I'll show you one more. So this one has a flannel at the base, and then a drawstring also. So these are some of the handmade reusable gift bags that I made quite a few years back, and we've been using them year by year. And so that's one idea. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you is the idea from the 6 R's that I really enjoyed when I went to a women's gift exchange at my church this month. Remember that we have let's see, the idea of buying secondhand things, giving antiques and stuff, so you're not dealing with things that, you know, not having new things be made for. So it's a waste of resources and such when there's already so many things in this world already, right? I don't know what would happen to the economy, though, if everyone just used things that already exist, because we do need people making new things, too. There needs to be some kind of a balance. But what I wanted to share with you is just this darling little teacup and saucer. And it's very, very small. It's like a little espresso size cup. And it's so charming, in my opinion. And this is what I got from one of the other ladies in the gift bag that I chose during our gift exchange. So I was just so thrilled with that, and I didn't mind at all that it was something she got secondhand. She said she found it at an antique shop a while back, and she also gave a book that she had read, and I passed that on to my daughter because it was Little Women, which my daughter absolutely loves, as I do as well. So it's okay to give secondhand things as gifts also, and it's really in the spirit of our 6 R's, which make a lot of economical sense as well. So it's part of good homemaking. All right, well, thank you for joining me for this very extended episode, and I'll see you next time as we finish the month of December